There are many video makers who have done a great job of explaining evolutionary theory for the benefit of creationists. Aaron Ra's Foundational Falsehoods of Creationism comes to mind and contains a wealth of relevant information. This video is aimed at the type of creationists I've been swapping comments with recently. It becomes increasingly frustrating when the questions you have already answered get asked again and again, and as the thinking atheist would say, the creationist is sending but not receiving. It's obvious that they have never bothered to learn how evolution works, not even on Wikipedia, and they repeat the same straw man arguments contained on websites such as Answers in Genesis and The Way of the Master over and over. The professional creationists, the ones who make money by selling books and DVDs and charging entrance fees to anti-scientific theme parks, are preying, not praying, on the gullible and ill-informed. It's sad, but a lot of that sort of trickery goes on in this world. So, for the benefit of the creationist who wants to try to persuade non-creationists that creationism is accurate and correct, please pay close attention to the following facts about the theory of evolution. Also, please note that you don't have to believe it's true to know what it is and how it works. The first thing we need to do is to recognize that the theory of evolution is not abiogenesis, nor is it cosmology, nor is it atheism. These are different subjects, and although there is some overlap, they should not be confused. They should not be mixed together and given the label evolutionism. Abiogenesis is a hypothesis about how life originated. Charles Darwin's most famous book was called On the Origin of Species, not On the Origin of Life. Try to remember this. Cosmology includes the Big Bang theory, which describes the expansion of the universe. Atheists are people who don't believe that gods are real. That's all atheists have in common. Some atheists understand cosmology, abiogenesis and evolution, others don't. There is no requirement for atheists to learn about these things. There are no commandments or threats of punishment for not believing that there are no gods, or reward for believing there are no gods. There is no dogma in atheism. There is also no requirement for atheists to read the Bible, though many of us have. Many of them become atheists because they read the Bible and found that it was unbelievable and unconvincing. Atheism is not a religion, even though many creationists insist that it is. Evolution isn't a religion either. It's a scientific theory. Other scientific theories include atomic theory, germ theory, and the theory of gravity. Scientific theories, not to be confused with hypotheses, make predictions which can be tested and have been verified. It makes no sense that creationists accept what scientists say about atoms, germs, and gravity, but reject what they say about evolution. The vast majority of scientists accept that evolution is true, so when certain creationists claim that there is a controversy within science, they are either being dishonest or profoundly ignorant. So what exactly is evolution? How does the theory work? Evolution describes the change of species over time, not within the lifetimes of a plant or animal, but from one generation to the next. Everyone knows that children are not identical to their parents. They are similar, but not identical. The DNA from both parents is combined in the offspring. The copying process is good, but not perfect. So variations occur, as do mutations, which don't normally lead to beneficial traits or characteristics, but occasionally they do. These beneficial traits apply to all species and can lead to a longer beak or thicker fur, which means that the individuals of whichever species are better adapted to survive and reproduce in a particular environment, and will pass on these characteristics to their offspring. And so it goes from one generation to the next. These small changes are recognized by creationists as microevolution. For some reason, they don't seem to be able to understand that small changes, extrapolated over long periods of time and thousands of generations, mean that the species at the beginning and the end of this sequence might be so different that they could no longer interbreed. This is how we determine what a species is. Biologists have studied the species of plants, animals, bacteria, fungi, and so on, which are alive today, and they have been able to reverse engineer and figure out how this process works. Populations can be separated geographically, on an island for example, or by a mountain range. And if this separation persists for long enough, and each population gradually adapts to a different environment, there will come a point when they could no longer interbreed. At this point, what used to be one population of one species has evolved to become two distinct populations of different species. The original population, specifically the parents which had two offspring who went different ways, are called the common ancestor. We now know that all life on Earth is related. Darwin predicted this, and the more recent discovery and study of DNA has confirmed this. Every species today shares a common ancestor with every other species. In a way, we are all distant cousins. This is what the evolutionary tree of life describes. It is a simplified family tree, only showing examples of species separated by thousands or millions of generations and geographical separation. We are animals, whether creationists like it or not. We are a species of ape, and our closest cousins are the chimpanzees. Their DNA is more similar to ours than any other animal. The common ancestor of the chimpanzee and modern humans is an ape which looked something like this and lived on the earth about 6 or 7 million years ago. The fact that the Bible doesn't even mention chimpanzees might have something to do with a limited knowledge of the men who wrote it, all those years ago in the Middle East. The fact that the biblical story of creation differs from reality-based scientific observation is interesting. Logically speaking, they can't both be right. Creationists claim that the Bible is 100% true, in spite of overwhelming scientific evidence to the contrary. My understanding of the world and application of logic and reason won't allow me to believe that an old book is more true than the conclusions of very smart people who have dedicated their careers to studying the natural world and figuring out how it works. That was a very brief description of some of the basics of evolutionary theory which creationists don't seem to know about. If any creationists have made it this far, thank you for your attention, and I sincerely hope you learned something. Before I go, I'd like to thank Wildwood Claire and her fat-assed cats for the recent shout-out. If any of you don't know who Claire is, please find the link in the description, enjoy her videos, and say hi from me. Thanks also to my new subscribers and those who have stuck with me. There are almost 1,000 of you now, which feels like some kind of milestone. I'll also put some links for anyone wishing to learn more about evolution. Creationists, please check them out and learn what evolutionary biologists are saying and compare how different this is to what you learned from Answers in Genesis. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video. Since I made my last video, which I'm going to retitle Part 1, some of the people I've been swapping comments with still don't seem to understand the very basics of evolutionary theory. It's possible that they're only pretending not to understand, but for the purposes of this video, I'll assume they are honestly expressing what they believe. Unfortunately, popular creationist websites and preachers either don't understand evolutionary theory, or they're deliberately misrepresenting it. Either way, what they're presenting is a straw man version of the actual theory, you know, the one scientists work with. Which means that people who only get their information from creationist sources will end up hopelessly confused. This is where people like me step in. I'm not a scientist, and I hold no formal qualifications in evolutionary theory or biology, but I have put in the time and effort required to understand the basics, the nuts and bolts of the thing, as presented by those who work with evolution and build upon it, rather than those who wish to destroy it, while so obviously not understanding how it works. People like me feel compelled to publicly expose false beliefs, especially if there's a chance that they can cause conflict and even harm children. The first thing I'd like to address is the absurd idea that one modern species should give birth to or morph into a different modern species. I'm sure you've all heard of Kirk Cameron's crocoduck. No evolutionary biologist has ever proposed anything like that. Only creationists come up with such nonsense. And then they say that's ridiculous, and claim that the lack of crocoducks proves that evolution is false and therefore the biblical creation story really happened. This is a bogus argument, and creationists must refrain from using it if they wish to be taken seriously. So what's the difference between the straw man argument and the actual theory of evolution? It's quite simple. Crocodiles, ducks, and all other modern species are distant cousins. Very distant cousins. This means that if you follow the family tree of a modern crocodile and a modern duck back far enough, there will be a point millions of years ago when the great-great-great-great-great-great, etc. grandmother of each is the same creature. This animal and its species no longer exists. It is an extinct species, which was neither duck nor crocodile. I made the following point in the last video, but it's very important, so I'm going to make it again. It doesn't matter if you believe that the theory of evolution is true or not, but it is important to understand what it is and how it works. Evolution is the process of how species change over time as a result of natural selection. Natural selection is the process by which the fittest individuals within a population survive for long enough to reproduce. The reason they survive is because they are not identical to the others in the population. They have minor differences, such as more frost-resistant leaves or stronger legs, which enable them to cope better with the conditions of the environment they live in. So those which survive for long enough to reproduce pass on their characteristics to their offspring. If each generation is slightly different from the last, the changes are going to get more and more noticeable as time goes by. Again, I'm going to repeat myself because the following never seems to sink into the brain of the creationist. An animal will never give birth to a different species, such as a duck laying an egg out of which a crocodile hatches. Only creationists make such claims. Nor do animals morph or shapeshift from one species to another. It's not like in the movies. Animations might show such a thing, but it is only an illustration, an analogy, a way of conveying the idea which needs to be understood in its proper context. Creationists believe that a supernatural God magically poofed all of the plants and animals into existence some 6,000 years ago, whereas evolutionary biologists and the overwhelming majority of scientists believe that modern species of plants, animals, fungi, microbes, bacteria, and all life on this planet evolved gradually over billions of years from very simple, tiny self-replicating molecules, gaining in complexity and variety, slowly at first, but with increasing rapidity, over some 3.5 billion years, until human beings, thanks to their inquisitive nature, their large brains, and their science, were able to piece together a coherent and natural explanation for life and the universe. To me, that's an incredible achievement. But our understanding is not complete. That's not to say that it could ever be shown to be as wrong as creationists claim it is. They do well to understand that the scientific method is self-correcting and not guided by anything other than a quest to understand reality. Our understanding improves as we learn more. Theories are refined. Creationists see this as a weak point, or indecisiveness, as if whether something is true or not is a matter of choice. The estimated age of the Earth and the universe makes sense. So does evolution. The data gathered and processed by thousands of highly intelligent and qualified people all point to the fact that the universe is billions of years old and that we are animals. We are related to all other life on Earth, and the process of evolution got us here. Magical mythical stories of a jealous, vengeful, genocidal, and loving supernatural God turning dust into human beings and then making a second female from the rib of the man just don't make sense. Very little in the Bible makes sense when you think about it, unless you believe that magic is real, which, I think, cuts to the heart of the matter. Most children believe in magic, but life experience and curiosity cause a lot of us to abandon that belief as we grow up. We learn, we figure things out, and we move on. But it seems as if the religious fundamentalists are unable to see the world the way I do, even when I describe in great detail what it looks like. It's as if they're programmed to deny a whole bunch of stuff, including the possibility that their holy book was created and written by men, plus the idea that modern scientists might understand the universe better than whoever wrote the holy books, plus the fact that atheists really don't believe that God is real, or that most also don't believe that there is any such thing as the supernatural, or the devil for that matter. It's as if the creationists are denying reality simply because they place their faith in the humans who wrote the holy books, and the humans who keep telling them it's all real, and that they must submit to the will of an invisible, unverifiable deity. They claim to have faith in God, but I don't believe that's true. It seems to me that they place their faith in a book and the humans who tell them its contents are all true. And apparently that's enough to convince them, so they go on to tell other people who, in turn, place their faith in the words of humans and the contents of the holy books. To me, the unavoidable question is, have any human beings actually experienced a supernatural God? And if they say they have, how confident can we be that what they experienced was a supernatural God rather than a hallucination, a lucid dream, schizophrenia, or some other natural phenomenon? I've been looking for evidence to support any kind of supernatural claim since I was a child. To date, I have found nothing concrete, nothing beyond circumstantial evidence and eyewitness testimony, which is why I'm an atheist who doesn't believe in anything supernatural. There are those who call me closed-minded, but I'm willing to change my mind if anyone can show me irrefutable evidence that such claims are true. I wonder how many creationists would be prepared to change their minds if it can be demonstrated that their arguments don't make sense. Arguing with creationists can be frustrating, and I apologize for repeating some stuff. But I'm determined not to let the willfully ignorant off the hook. If they've watched this far without earplugs and a blindfold, they have no excuse for continuing to assert that evolution is what Kirk Cameron says it is. Creationists, stop putting your faith in other people. Do some objective research. Try to find errors in all of the arguments you hear. You claim the Bible is true. Fine. Let's assume it is. What have you got to lose? If it is true, then every honest inquiry you make will lead to that conclusion. What's more important, a belief which might be wrong, faith in other words, or the truth? Like I said, if your beliefs are true, then you have nothing to worry about. Before I go, I would like to thank all my new subscribers who have now taken the total to over 1,000. It seems to be some kind of tradition to make a question and answer video, which I don't know how interesting that would be, but if any of you would like me to do such a thing, then send me the questions that you would like me to answer. If you just put them in the comment section, then I'll just answer them in the comment section, so either specify that you want it to be part of a video, or send it as a PM. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and see you in the next video.